How was I able to plan out career development strategy? So, career development strategy, I think let's throw away the jargon. Let's get back to the basics. You're living your life. You're at 18, you become an adult. At 18, I feel like the world is real, right? Between 18 and 22, typically people go to college, right? And then from 22 and beyond, that's when people come into the workforce and live their life. When it comes to career planning, I think the first thing you need to think about is like, there's in ways, probably not, first and foremost, believe that you're going to be around for at least 50 years. Let's just put it out to the universe. I'm going to be around for us 50, let's say 100. You're going to live to be 100 years old. Let's start there. You're going to live to be a century. So if you live to be a century, you look at the world a little bit differently. Because you think about it, it's like, okay, if I'm 30 today, what would my decades in the 40s look like? What would I want to be doing with my life? What would my decades in the 50s look like? At 80, at 90, at 100. And you start to look at the world and say, okay, what would keep me optimized? What would keep me happy each decade, right? And you start to realize that you're not in this rat race to try to do everything in 1 year. There's a famous quote that people say that people overestimate what they're able to do 1 year and underestimate what they're able to do in 10 years. Very crucial statement, because you need to really think about, well, we're all rushing to try to do something so quickly, but we're not the growth. And one thing I would say is, I think we need to be better about just doing the work and doing the grunt work, because sometimes, we're all trying to look for the shortcut, but don't realize that you want the shortcut after you understand the entire process the long way. This is why people say sometimes learning the hard way is actually the better way, because you learn all the nuances that make you find the right shortcuts. Because sometimes if you learn by learning shortcuts first, when you don't have that shortcut option, you're not able to do things the right way anymore. Right? It's kind of like, for example, if you were able to learn how to get a job just by pretty much clicking a button, and you start working at the organization. Let's say the organization lays you off a year later, right? Now, as an unemployment crisis, you don't know what skills you need to be able to optimize your resume, optimize your profile, optimize your cover letter, what career tips you need to say. Like, you just handicap yourself, right? Because you were so focused on trying to get to the shortcut that you didn't try to get yourself to be the best that you could be, and upping your skills, upping your mindset, upping your ability to really get to the right stage mentally, psychologically, and physically. So now you're in a situation where you're now out for the count. So I'm not saying shortcuts are not important. I'm just saying thrive in the ability to live this life without shortcuts. So that way, when you get to those shortcuts, you're able to create them. There are guidelines all around the world. You could break guidelines steps of any challenge. And that's something that's very, very important. Try to learn the fundamental steps of every challenge. You will thank yourself in the long run, because that's what gives people momentous growth.